And Kaylee, I know you guys are going to start.
Yeah.
So if you guys can tell us where you're tuning in from, if you can.
Yes. Tell us where you're from.
Where are you from?
Where are you from?
Yeah. So good afternoon. How is everybody doing? Thank you so much for being here today. We are honored to have you part of this group. And I am honored to be part of this amazing collaboration. We started this only a couple weeks ago. And like Tina said, she started this group and all of us came together through the John Maxwell team, studying leadership and really wanting to be better servant leaders. And for myself, I didn't even know what that meant until I joined the team and started my first event, and hearing John speak about culture and servant leader. I thought for me, I thought my staff was lucky that I was there. And really it changed my whole perspective of our responsibility and our role in our industry. So I am so grateful today to be here with you and with our partners here, Rosemary, Tina, Nuala, Sean, and Kaylee. And so Kaylee, how have you been since last week? And I know you've been really working and coaching salon owners, so maybe you could share a little bit about what's happening in your world.
Sure. I'll give a little bit of background too of kind of how I came to be part of this group. And so you had mentioned we're all part of the John Maxwell team, and that's our coaching certificate. And I'm Kaylee Auger from Canada, and I have a coaching business, coaching salon owners. And I found the John Maxwell team because I had followed his books. Like I had been reading his books for years, and they were life-changing for me. They really gave me the tools that I needed to like grow and lead my team. And when the invitation came up for the event, I was like, I've got to go. And I want to tell you how I all met Christine, because we were at the John Maxwell event and there was a break. And I think they said like, go say hi to someone. And there's like 2,000, is there like 2,000 or 5,000 people? I don't know. It's just like a room packed, and it's not a hairdressing event, right? It's like a leadership event. And so I walked around the room and I'm like, okay, who am I gonna talk to? I've got 15 minutes. I've got to spot someone that I want to meet. And I walked right up to Christine and I was like, hey, what do you do? And she's like, I'm a salon owner. And I have 2 kids. And I'm like, I'm a salon owner and I have 2 kids. And so that was kind of how this all started, how, you know, I got introduced to all these other wonderful ladies. And I just thought like, how, you know, how is everything just so meant to be when I can go around a room of 2,000 people and find the salon owner in the group just like that.
Yeah, pretty incredible.
Yeah. And then you asked me about, you know, how it's going this week. Last week we spoke about leading through distraction. And this morning I've been highly distracted because I'm trying to get my kids set up on their devices to do homeschool while I'm speaking to all of you. And just seeing, okay, you know, obviously I didn't wake up early enough this morning and plan out, you know, plan out those steps. And I think going back to the leading through distraction is really like being intentional about your day and compartmentalizing the different pieces of your day so that you can give each thing that you're doing the focus that it deserves. And so if that means you're planning a Zoom meeting with your team, making sure that you're in a private space somewhere that you can focus just solely on your team. If you are one of the parents out there who's now got this additional responsibility of homeschooling your kids, you know, also carving out the time that you're focusing just on them. So I think that, you know, the time blocking really helps with that fighting distraction, but we're all human and, you know, I'm usually really good at that, but this morning it just wasn't working. So we have to give ourselves forgiveness for that too. And Christine, I know you're juggling the same things. So how do you stay positive through it all? Because every time I talk to you, you've always just got a positive spin going on. So maybe you can share that a little bit.
So I think part of that is the preparation of doing the work prior to the crisis. And I know that you're going to hear from Tina and Sean about leadership and about ways to prepare. And going through this training with John Maxwell and really studying a lot of his material. And one of the books that at the end of this course that we're going to talk about is Leadership 2.0. We're going to really kind of dive into that work. And it's the focus of that work is about how do we become more and lift our lid so that we can grow others. And there is a lot that goes into that process, and a lot more than I ever imagined. And really being part of an extraordinary group of people that will help you to raise your level of leadership and really introduce you to these things. And I think the most important thing that helps me to stay positive is having a group of people that I can grow with and feel safe and be able to be my authentic, vulnerable self in any situation. And I know that they are not judging me. I know that they're coming from a place of great intent and a place of compassion and empathy, and understand that we are all in this together and we are all in this to grow. So I am really excited to launch that mastermind when we're through with this, because I think for those of you that are on this call, I know what it took, and I know the work that I've been doing since 2014 and then some, and I still have work to do on myself. So I just know the value of this material. So I think that that's a big part of it, Kaylee.
Awesome. So surround yourself with people who lift you up. And Christine, I think it's even more important now because there's a lot of people that are just stuck in doomy, gloomy thoughts, and we want to lift them up too, but we have to also be careful how much time we're spending talking to people who are kind of pulling on us versus those who are lifting us up.
Yeah.
So I think, for our listeners to really safeguard yourself of, yes, I know I make time for the people in my life that I know they need me to lift them. But I need to make sure I have a balance of also the ones that are lifting me. Because if you're just lifting everybody in your life, then it's hard to maintain that positivity. So I think, that was an awesome tip you gave everyone, is making sure you have those people around you that are lifting you up and helping keep you positive. The other thing I like that you said, Christine, was the Leadership 2.0 that we're going to be launching in the mastermind, is that starting point is all about leading yourself. And we all know, it's easy to tell someone else what to do, but when it comes to us having to do it, and this is a time where a lot of us are having to be self-directed, and maybe you had a boss, or maybe you have your employees you have to do things for, and now you're home and your day is up to you to map out. And so I love that that's where we're starting, because the first person you need to lead is yourself, and you need to be able to follow yourself. You need to be confident in your own decision making if you want other people to be able to lead you. So I think we picked a great spot. So should we jump in and introduce Sean? And
yes. So Sean is next up, and Sean is Tina's right-hand man. I think he runs most of Tina's companies, and you'll hear from Tina in just a few minutes, but he is here to talk to you about real leadership in crisis, character in crisis. So developing character. So way to go, Sean.
I love that. Thank you so much. And, right before we got on this call today, I had a quote that came across that said, life is 10% what happens to us and 90% on how we react. And how perfect timing when we're going to be talking about character today. And, I really want you to think about, what is your definition of character? So if you're on Facebook, put it in the comments. If you're on Zoom with us, go ahead and put down what your definition of character is. Because when I think of character, character is the combination of our ethical and moral compass. It's our integrity, and it's our judgment. And really how we're responding to this crisis is letting us know exactly where our character is at this moment. It's been said that, character is what people predict of you when no one is watching. So, you know, what are you really doing, and what has been revealed? Because, you know, we're not made in a crisis, we're revealed. The other day, Kelly Cardenas was saying that the coronavirus did not bring us fear or stress or the anxiety that we're currently facing, because it was already there. We already had it. It was inside of us. You know, oftentimes people think that the crisis is forging our character, but it's really not true. It's those choices that we've made in the past that have shaped us to who we really are today. And you know, it's showing us the leader that's inside of us. And you know, we can't moan and lead at the same time. As a leader, we've got to be able to give that hope and be that strength and cast that vision. It's what we do. It's who we are. And you know, when we think of character, you know, I think when it's been revealed, sometimes some of the people around us aren't really who we thought we were. They're kind of out there. You know, Kaylee said it earlier today that sometimes we gotta kind of push back a little bit from those people. And you know, this is a great time for, you know, self-discovery and really diving in as to who you want to be, because at the end of this what we're in, there's going to be a rainbow. And how are you going to present yourself to the team? Maybe you're not happy with where your character is at this moment, but that's okay. The world's paused for us to make that shift. We definitely can't make a new start, but we can definitely bring a brand new ending. You know, so what are 3 character qualities that will help you lead well in a crisis? What are those 3 things? You know, put them in the chat, and I'm actually going to put Christine on the spot. When you think of those 3 character qualities that you have, you know, because it was said perfectly that you're a person who always has positivity and always has optimism. And as you're, you know, you spoke to your leaders today, and as you're, you know, leading your team, what are those character qualities that are really helping you lead through this crisis?
Okay, so thanks, Sean. So I think the characteristics that are helping me lead through the crisis are, 1, vision, really making sure that I constantly and honing my vision. And I know now at this time more than ever, it's not only about taking that old vision of what you had, but it's being able to be moldable. And that's my other characteristic, is to be adaptable to the situation and be able to reinvent and change the necessary things that we need to go forward. And I think the third I would probably say is to be empathetic to people's scenarios within the crisis, because every single person on our team is going to be going through their own experience in this process. So if I were to just put my head in the sand and drive the ship forward and not be aware of the rest of my team and how they're dealing with this own crisis within themselves, I would be misleading them. So I think it's having vision, but also being able to step back away from that vision and be able to have empathy for the people that are on this ship with me. So those are the 3 things I would say have helped me.
I love that. And it's funny that you said, you know, adaptability, because that's the first thing that comes to my mind right now is, you know, as an adaptable leader, you know, we turn adversity into an advantage, you know. And John used the great example of football coaches, their ability to make the adjustments at halftime. You know, great leaders, we adapt to the uncertainty. We get prepared for it. You know, we create that forward momentum. So I 100% agree with you that adaptability, number 1, but we also have to have courage. We got to have courage, because with courage, you know, it really empowers us to do what's right. in the face of, fear and uncertainty. And that's what we're in. We're in kind of uncertain times, but it's an awesome time because the world is paused for us to make adjustments, to be better, to be stronger, to lead better, to lead new ways. We talk a lot about, sanitation and what that's going to look like when we all get back into the salon. Like it's going to be a completely different game for us. But as leaders, we need to lead that process and, have the adaptability for the times, have the courage, and Tina said it perfectly. My last one would be self-management. You have to stay grounded, connected, and surrounded. And that's 100% what we're doing right here. We're surrounded with like-minded people, and we're staying connected, with our weekly masterminds. And, we have a great opportunity when this one's done for developing the leader within you 2.0. It's fantastic. They talk about character in there, and they talk about leading yourself. So I'm super excited for that next journey as well. And with that, we'll turn it over to Tina.
Tina, I want to share with you a question from one of the attendees. Maybe you could be best to answer this, since your next segment is all about, leadership. He said, Diane Reckner, and he said, my character is frozen in fear. I am opening a salon in the middle of all this. Do I throw in the towel and get out while I'm ahead, or do I forge ahead and hope it'll last weeks out? I know what I want to do, but I'm in fear.
It's so funny because he set me up for this whole thing, because I think I called him and told him I'd give him $20 if he put this question in here, because I think his question's going to be answered when we're done. And Diane, thank you for your transparency in this. And, I've got to tell you, this past week, I went to go pick up some food and next to the place, and we're in Marco Island, Florida right now. So we're kind of sheltered from everything happening. And I thought I was, and I walked by a salon that was shut down. And then the next day, I just kind of saw the reality of it. And I was with my team on a Zoom call, my salon teams. We have 3 salons, and talking to them. And immediately I had heard Hannah's story. So our first salon partner, she wrote her, she did a video of her story of how she got to know Brianna and I, which is my daughter, and how we had changed her life. And that my motto is, I'm in the business of changing lives, period. And so when I heard that, she reminded me of my why. And so I want to talk about that in a little bit. But when I talked to all of my staff that day, I started to cry. Not only for a couple team members that are really struggling through this, but I also started to cry because of the happiness and how proud I was of that team for showing so much courage, just what you were talking about, Sean. And so let me just ask you, what is coming out of you? And be honest, just put it in the chat box. Diane, you led the way, and you're showing exactly what you're feeling right now. And that's just reality for so many of us. And I don't know about you guys, but I've been up and I've been down, I've been up and I've been down. And, some days I'm a 1 and other days I'm a 9.9, and so what's coming out of you, when you squeeze lemons, what do you get? Lemonade. So I'm going to have a little sip here.
Tina, can I jump in?
Yeah.
Because I've had the pleasure of speaking with Diane, and Diane, I know that you have so much passion in you. And, I think that's what Christine spoke to in the beginning, was surrounding yourself with the right people. And Diane, I think the step that's going to keep you out of fear is to be on calls like this, and it is to fuel yourself. And I always say, it's interesting the way you wrote it, because you said, I know what I want to do, but I'm in fear. And so I think we need to live in that space that energizes us, right? And so it's almost like I went on this canyoning tour in my 20s, and we had to jump off of the rock into this pool of water. And if we didn't jump far enough, we would be like jumping on more rock. And so you felt this like fear that you just wanted to cling to the rock, right? But by clinging to the rock, you were actually putting yourself in more danger of like not launching yourself far enough. And so you pretty much had to just like swallow up all that fear and launch yourself and be in faith that you're going to land in the right space of water that had no rock. And that's kind of what I'm thinking about now, is that, you know, the fear actually keeps us in the danger zone. And if we are going to succeed in this, we have to launch ourselves far enough past the danger zone. And so, and that zone is the zone that energizes you, right? And we do have to, but we have to also be, you know, saying get out while I'm ahead, right? Like we have to be financially responsible. We have to look at our situation where we are to be able to know where that jump is. So it's, you know, really getting clarity of where you are, where you want to go, and then you know how far you need to jump. So thanks. I just wanted to chime in on that because I know Diane, and I know she's got some spirit in her that she can get through this.
Yeah, and I think it just goes back to what you're talking about, Kaylee, and I love that because I believe that most people are struggling right now and hurting right now because they identify with money, and that's what they're most fearing. And when I heard that statement from Diane, it's a very common statement. I made that statement many, many years ago, and I got out when I thought I was ahead. But that was because I didn't truly know my value, and I didn't know my self-worth, and I didn't realize that it truly was part of my purpose. So I ran in fear, and I ran far ahead. And I just want to encourage you all today, because your net worth does not equal your self-worth. Did you know that 60 to 70% of people are disengaged at work right now? And so it just goes back to resetting what is your purpose. And Diane, I was I had that thought for 1 second. That was it. Because I went right back to my purpose, because I'm in the business of changing lives. I could lose everything right now, file bankruptcy, and I would go right back into owning schools and salons, because this is my purpose, and I know it's my purpose, and I will do everything I can to fight. The first time I didn't. I gave up, and I gave too easy because I didn't know how valuable that I was. And so it's time to reset. It's time to stop doing and start being, right? Rethink, reimagine, and reconnect. And that's exactly what you're doing right now. And you're surrounded by so many like-minded, higher-minded people. I love all the people that have joined our salon networking group. I cannot thank you enough for this. Lean into the page, because we're better together, and we want to be there together and build up this industry. I believe this is one of the greatest things that ever happened to our industry. I think we're going to step back and we're going to see our purpose. When I saw that salon owner that shut down, I thought my tears were because I was sad for this person. I don't know if it was a woman or a man. I don't know who owned the salon. But I was thinking, I'm going to see more of these doors shut because they forgot what their purpose was. And so I just want you to think about this. So what do you truly value? What interest do I have? So Diane, the rest of you that are thinking like Diane right now, take some time right now. You have all the time in the world, right? You have all the time in the world. And so what do you value? What interests do you have? What is something that you don't want to retire from? And I'm telling you, I am not looking in this to get a retirement package. Are you kidding me? I will never retire. I will refire. That's what I will do, because this is supposed to be what I'm supposed to be doing. And I have developed a business structure where I don't hire employees. I hire future partners. I hire future partners because I want to teach people how to lead. I've seen the effects of it. I've seen how it's changed people's lives. I've seen how it's changed their lives at home, with their parents, with their spouses, with their children, and then of course with each other as well. So I just want to encourage you in that as well. And hey, I want to talk about the gap that's going on right now. I want you to think, salon owners, this is for you. Okay, there's a gap going on right now because 60 to 70% of people in our country are disengaged from their work. Now, it's a possibility that you might have one or two, or maybe, I hope not more, that are disengaged from their work. So they're here, but you see them here. So how are you going to bridge that gap? Because I'm telling you, and it's so true, that you're only as strong as your weakest link right now. Now is your opportunity to get a great culture of system, to bridge the gap, to be the leader that you truly, truly are. I believe you are this leader, okay? And so how are you going to build the gap? And I believe it begins in you. And I told the story last week, but I got an opportunity to go with 150 coaches the first time to Guatemala. And then I went with 250 coaches to Costa Rica. We trained a course called Transformation Begins in Me. And I'll tell you, when I started to transform, and Sean knew the old Tina, a lot of my team that's still with me knew that old Tina. And so all I had to do was work on me. Transformation begins in me. And that's why we want to open this up to be able to, like, I loved what you said, Christine, of just really building a safe place where we can really, really feel real and raw with each other, and have a private mastermind where we can work with each other on all of these issues and different things that we're struggling with, so that together we can form something new, bigger, better, different. I just got to speak on Anthony Whitaker's podcast. It's coming out. And I told him how excited I was, because finally my salons and my schools were going to be Tina clean. My whole staff always says to me, oh, is it Tina clean? And I'm like, it'll never be Tina clean. But after this, it's going to be Tina clean. Like, you got to understand, I was in the dental field for 14 years. So I walk into this industry 21 plus years ago, and I'm thinking, this is not as clean as a dental office, right? So now with this happening, I'm thinking, wow, infection control is going to go through the roof. And we have a whole list of really cool things that my team all put together of things that they want to do. And we're going to hand out letters to our guests of saying how we're going to take your guest service to a whole nother level. And these are the things that we're going to do to protect you and your families. And we're going to be able to shift our companies into a whole different realm. And I'm telling you, we're pumped up. I'm excited. We have a whole team in our salon team that's called the Create Magic Team. We're coming up with ways to really create magic for our guests and take the services to a whole nother level. We're going to have a hot towel heater. We're going to put the hot towel on, have essential oils. So we're going to we do an incredible wash house experience. We are known for our wash house experience, right? The shampoo. Not many salons do this, but we do. And I hope all of you that are listening, that you revamp, that you rethink, you reimagine your business and take it to the level that you always wanted it to go, and engage your team. Get your team really excited about it. But I tell you, right now is your opportunity to get your whole team on board, your opportunity to build even more trust. I heard a great speaker last night on Salon Owner Mastermind, Jay Williams, and he said that trust is the new currency, and it's made up of competence and character. Competence and character. And so go to the next slide, Sean, and then we'll see what people are writing here. Leaders should not seek to protect their titles. They should seek to protect their character. And so that's something that I really want to talk about, because Sean and I have a business called Next Level Salon Leadership. Many of you have taken that 6-month course, and we've had so much fun with our salon owners and our salon leaders for this process. But what we do is we work on all of that soft stuff that nobody wants to talk about, that makes all the difference in the world. Because if you want to focus on one thing right now while you're in this quarantine, focus on how to build a written system for your culture, and focus on building you. because that's what's going to keep people, that's going to keep your companies, eliminate confusion, increase morale, and decrease turnover. What I'm hearing right now from all of the salon owner platforms is they're so afraid that they're going to lose their team. They're so afraid that they're going to lose their team when they really should just be focusing on building themselves. And I'm going to give you some real practical tools that you can use today to help to build yourself. I use so many different leadership tools that with my teams and with salon owners. So I want to do that as well too. So any questions that you guys have, go ahead and throw that into the chat box. But I love that you guys were talking about, we're going to open it up to a private mastermind called Developing the Leader 2.0. Probably the greatest book I've ever read. It's our Bible in our businesses. Our school leaders go through this, and all of the salon leaders that we work with, we have them work on this book, Developing the Leader 2.0 by John C. Maxwell. Probably one of the greatest books of all time, because transformation begins in you and your team. You know, they know if, you know, if you're good or bad, right? And so they're talking about it. They're talking about you, but do you know? And I'll tell you, I sat down with my team about 2 to 3 weeks ago with our salon teams, and I asked them, and I said, what are you looking for in a leader? What qualities are you looking for? And I'm a big advocate of assessments, and I'm a huge advocate as a leader that you should always have your team assess you. I see it the other way around all the time in companies where they're just assessing their employees. It's like, when do they get a chance to assess you, right? Because if everything rises and falls on leadership, that it's important for you to be assessed as well. And so I'm constantly seeking not only for my team to assess me, but I also want to see if I have safety with them, because greatest companies are where everyone builds appropriate, solid relationships, right? And so look through this, because I want you to know my team came up with this. So this is what they told Sean, myself, my daughter, who's my business partner. They told us, this is what we look for in you as a leader. And so I was like, okay, cool. Well, unbeknownst to them, they had no idea that I was going to turn it into an assessment. I said, okay, so if you're looking for this in a leader, then I want you to assess me, Sean, and Brianna. And so they did. And it was so cool, because a couple of them especially, I saw I had tremendous safety with them because their scores were right on. I want you to know I am not a perfect 10 in all of these areas. Yes.
Can I ask you a question? Because this takes a lot of courage to do something like this with your team, I think. And one of the things that I would say is it takes a lot of vulnerability to receive such feedback. And I remember in the beginning stages of when I was growing, I was very defensive when I got the feedback. So can you speak into a little bit of that, of like how you, in the beginning stages of when you became open to this, can you talk a little bit about that process of like, sort of like getting stretched?
Yeah. Getting like naked really in front of your team. And that was when I was in Guatemala. And that was when the transformation started happening. And so when I started training leaders, and here I was training people and realizing I wasn't even these things. So people, and we all know that what's the best leadership quality is leading by example. And so I crack up when leaders say, oh, I'm so pissed off at my staff because they're always late. It's like, excuse me, are you ever late? Oh yeah, okay. Well, I was the leader. I didn't think I had to be on time. Right? And so for me, it was the quick realization that my business failed because of me. And it wasn't until John C. Maxwell said that everything rises and falls on leadership, Christine. And it was really looking in the mirror and saying, you know what? It was my fault. I realized that. And so at that point, I knew I had to go to work on me. And I knew that if I want to attract high level people like the Seans of this world, that I was going to have to work on me. So that, because it's the law of the lid, right? People aren't going to work for a leader that they're better. This is why people leave companies, because their leader is down here and they're up here, right? So these are like, how do you work on your leadership? You work on character development. And so once I kind of started to get a taste of it, Christine, of me being able to see the fruits of some of the shifts and changes that I was making, and I'm not a perfect person at all. I still have a lot of work to do. And so every day I'm always thinking, okay, how can I work on this? How can I work in this area? And so it takes intention. We talked earlier about you have to be intentional, right? And so let me ask you this. So through this trial that we're going through right now, through this crisis, I've been through quite a few crises in my life. I always ask this question: did I pass or did I fail? And what are my teams actually looking at? So pass or fail. And so it's okay, because I fail every day at certain things with my husband, especially, right? I have to really, really watch how I talk to my husband, and I have to be very, very careful, because leadership starts at home, right? How you act at home is how you're eventually going to start acting at work. So how'd you do? How have you been doing? Pass or fail? Right? And so think about that, and then look at these qualities. And Rosemary, I'm going to go to you first. So as you look at these qualities, and so it's interesting because my team, when they graded me, because I already know my score, I already know, and this is, Christine, to answer your question, I constantly assessing myself, constantly in front of my team. I'm very vulnerable in front of my team. I will let them know what I think my weaknesses are. I expose those. Once you start doing that, it gets a little bit easier. I was shaky at first, but I mean, everybody's shaky at first. You know, when you've met your first client, you weren't all confident, right? And so time you do something for the first time, it's scary. Okay. But they graded me, and they were right on. In fact, I would say number 8. So if you look at the area, and so everyone, if you want to jot down the area that you think that you excel in, that you do the best, and then pick an area that you need to work on the most. And so it's very consistent across the board with my leaders that they were right on with what I'm actually working on. So I knew I've passed in that field, but now it's like, okay, I got to go to work, right, in these areas. So number 8, this is where I excel. I own my faults, weaknesses, and failures. It starts with that, Christine. And
so I think what I hear you saying is, you haven't arrived. Like there's work to be done as we go through this process, and that we do it messy a lot of times. It's not all buttoned up and perfect, because I think sometimes we think like we want to be here where you are, or we want to be here where this other leader is, but we don't realize the mess that they created along the way.
Yes.
So it's so great that you're sharing those experiences with everyone, because I feel like sometimes when people have done something well, and they've gotten to the point where they learned, they make it look effortless. But meanwhile, it was a disaster on the way there sometimes.
Yes. Yeah. And I love that you said that, because it really takes, for me, like I know the things I need to work on. And so Sean and I, we have fixed areas that we need to fix in our company. And so one of them is communication. And so we're working on that this month right now, fixing our communication, right? And it's funny because communication is the one thing we fail at the most and work at the least. Right. And so if I look at my family, like how's my communication with my family? How's my communication with my husband? How's my communication with my team? Do I have something set in stone? And I tell you, we waver a little bit. And I kind of wanted to see where my leaders thought with that too, because I wanted to see where their thoughts were on my communication. And my lowest scores were number 6, number 7, and and number 14, everything to do with communication. Don't you think it's funny that my team said to us that these are the qualities we're looking for? 3 things on communication. 3 things on communication. And so I knew, I was like, okay, Sean, he and I need to sit down and come up with an even better plan for communication and make sure that we're over communicating. And so if you were to look at these for yourself, what would be that one area that you excel in, and what's the one area that you need to work on? So that's your home plate. Put it in the chat, please, everybody. Put it in Facebook Live, because the more you put things out there, then it becomes easier to share your weaknesses and things that you need to work on. Rosemary, what are yours? What's the one area that you excel in, and what's the one area that you want to work in?
Thanks, Tina. I think the one thing that I really need to work on is trust. I trust to a very small degree. I'm very deliberative and very vigilant, so I'm always very cautious in how I convey a message. I think that communication, because sometimes I'm my own worst enemy. So I find myself that you don't have to tell me what I'm doing wrong, because I'm already grading myself as worst as possible. So the thing that I would say I excel at is integrity. I am a good listener. I tend to be very good. I mean, you could speak to me for hours and I'll just be there. Accountability. So I'm really good at self-disciplining and finding myself in a place of working harder to bring more to the table. But what holds me back is that I tend to allow certain times fear and trust to overtake them. So it's a constant battle. So I always say I have a conference room in my head. Mm-hmm. That one side of the conference room is, the ones that are saying the nay, and then the other side is saying the yay. And I have to, a lot of times, do things afraid and just hope for the best. And if something goes a little wonky, I just have to really have a self-talk. So those are the things that I work on consistently. Thanks, Tina.
Yeah, I love that. Thanks for sharing. Thanks for the vulnerability and the transparency. Like, it gets easier over time. And so as we do these with our team, Nuala, you're next. But when we do this with our salon teams, leader has to go first. The leader has to go first, and make sure that if you are good at something, make sure you really are good at something, because otherwise you're going to break trust with that team. So if you say you're a good listener and you're not a good listener, they're like, no, they're not. And remember, trust is the new currency, and it's about character building, right? And so it's leaders got to go first. The law of the lid. It's all character development. When we train in Guatemala, Costa Rica, Paraguay, the John Maxwell team, when we go there, what are we training? We are training character principles. That's all. Leadership is building your character. So Nuala, what's the area that you excel at, and what's the one area that you're working on? You'll have to unmute yourself, or Sean will.
Hey, Tina, thanks for the question. So I think the one area with my team that always say that I have a heart and that I care, and I'll care for them, and that's really transparent. So, whenever anybody talks about me, I've overheard things like, she's the heart of our business, and Nuala really cares. I can go to her about anything. So there is a trust there. And, I kind of have a no gossip policy that I really try to adhere to. I'm only human, but, at the end of the day, that's something that I hear about myself a lot. So, and I think that's just part of my character of who I am. And it's funny because I did a DISC training through John Maxwell, and it was, to help me with communication with my team. And, I was really surprised at the result I got. And part of that was, I'm actually perfect for the job that I'm in. And it was interesting because part of that character was care, like I'm an SID. So, people were really shocked with that. They thought I'd have a higher D. So, be more dominant, but I definitely have the heart of a leader. And I speak into that a lot. And that's actually one of my favorite chapters in Leadership 2.0 is the leader with leading with a heart. Mm-hmm. And the one area of things that I'm always constantly working on is delegation. As a leader, delegation is probably my biggest weakness. So, you know, that's something that I'm working on. And leading in crisis and being a real leader in crisis, seeing how Mark Cole is delegating the team through this has been really inspirational for me. So really working on my delegation while I'm away is really important. And that's something I have to practice. So I think if my team, they'd probably say that about me, is the delegation. I try to do too much because my strength is also a big part of my weakness.
Yeah.
You know what I
And
mean?
you know, remember when I was telling you guys about 60 to 70% of the people are disengaged, and that's because of leaders that don't delegate.
Absolutely.
So you've got to believe in your people so that they can receive what you're giving them. And so you've got to give them a sense of belonging. So that's why in our course, we train how to build an organization chart. I don't care if you have 3 people working in your business or you have, you know, hundreds of people. You need an organization chart because you want to give something to people to aspire to and to be a part of, to be able to lead a company. I can tell you every company that I worked for and excelled in, I created positions for myself because I wanted to be a part of something bigger than myself. So my home play for you guys, I'm going to post this 21 qualities of leader that I made, that my team made, to grade yourself and then to ask a couple of your leaders. So will you be brave enough to ask a couple of the people that you lead to assess you? And this is the thing that you're going to check on. You're going to check to see if you have safety with them, because you know, when you're a great leader, you develop solid, appropriate relationships with them, meaning that they can tell you when you suck. Okay. They can tell you when you suck. So let's see if they have safety with you, because I'll tell you, when I lead someone that can assess me and give me the reality picture of me, then it's so much easier for me to lead them. So much easier. It's that give and take of relationship with each other. So that's my challenge to you guys, to do that. So come back next week and have some answers for us as well too. And I tell you, Kathleen, Kathleen's in our Next Level Salon Leadership course. We just absolutely love her. So I just want to thank you so much for your response that you have here. I see you have number 9. I don't know if it's what you're working on or what you're great at, but thanks for your honesty there as well too. And we can jump into the chat here after I finish with the second tool, because I love when Kaylee and Christine were talking about being intentional. And it really, you know, it really is just small shifts in your leadership. You know, when I train in leadership, I always tell people that you find your success by taking baby steps rather than big, huge steps. So it's just small shifts, I like to call them. And one of the things that I really, really work on it, and Kaylee, you said this earlier, you said you have to be intentional about your day so you can give the focus that it deserves. And something that John C. Maxwell taught me and that I've developed as part of my own program is called the Rule of 5, and coming up with 5 things that I have to do every single day to get closer to my goal. And I'll tell you, my Rule of 5 is intermixed in here. Number 1, I have to be a part of the 5 a.m. club, wake up early and go to bed early. Number 2, I have to have morning and meditation and prayer. Number 3, work out until I sweat. I'm doing Beachbody on demand right now because I can't be in the gym. And no excuses, you guys. There's so much opportunity out there to work out. And then number 4, just constantly making a plan for my day. I have a planner that I've made called Be a Planner, and I just love that because it helps me to really organize my thoughts of what I need to get done. And I tell you, the most important thing right now in this quarantine, like, make sure you have a very strategic plan every single day and don't get caught up in the news. I almost got caught up in the news today. And I'm like, somebody please turn the news off because I have too much things that I have to do, right? So you catch yourself on when you're doing things and you're not following your Rule of 5. So I want you to think about, what's your Rule of 5? Look at this list, 21 habits to become a great leader, and jot down maybe a Rule of 3 right right now, your top 3 things that you think you need to start doing every single day to get closer to your goal of being a great leader. My 5th one is for sure. Now, my family would say I do 8 hours of this a day right now, which probably is true. I've been doing a lot of this, but at least 1 hour of learning with books, podcasts, and online courses. I'm obsessed. My family's getting worried about me. They think I'm so obsessed that I'm addicted to improvement. And I really am. I'm definitely addicted to improvement. But I'm like, well, you guys are watching Netflix. I'm going to go into my den. This is my den area. And I'm going to just start pouring into myself. And, because you can't give what you don't have. So what would you say are your rule of 5 or your rule of 3? Go ahead and jot that in the chat box. And let's go over to you, Sean. What would you say is your rule of 5 or 21 habits to be a great leader?
I definitely think my first one would be focusing on, like you said, podcasts or books. Like, I have to give to myself before I have anything to give to any of the people that we have the privilege of leading. So that is number 1 for sure. And, making your bed in the morning, as simple as that sounds, it's been said that if you start your day by making your bed, you've accomplished one thing. So you're already off to a great start. And I think number 3 is I'm really careful of who I allow into my circle, because people have, we're all energy sensitive. And if you have certain toxic people in your life, they can bring you down. So I'm very careful of who is in my inner circle and what I surround myself with, especially in this time right now. I'm sure everybody's Facebook feed has sometimes gone off the deep end. There's a great feature where you can hide their posts and you no longer have to see anything that they put for a while, because I have to make sure that, after giving back to myself, what I surround myself with is so important.
So good, Sean. I love that so much. How about you, Rosemary? And I know some people are posting things, and yes, we are going to post these PDFs on the page, the Salon Owner Networking page. So make sure you're part of the Salon Owner Networking page, and we will post it so that you can print those out as well too. So Rosemary, what are yours? What are your top 3? I don't know if the PDF is still up there or not, so you can look at it.
The PDF is not up, but one thing is, like Sean, thank you, Sean, for putting it back, is definitely work out until you sweat. Gratitude. 3 things that you appreciate. I appreciate the fact that I woke up this morning and I'm healthy. Declutter. I also think definitely a form of learning, whether it be like yourself, a book or a lesson. I do tend to love to listen to recorded messages, and being a C, for those of you who've taken the DISC program, I love continuity and little bullet points. So note taking is probably one of my, you can relate, Sean. And then I like to make a list of things I need to do for that morning, like plan out the day. I'll say, okay, you know what, today I want to go for a walk, or it could be something small. But as an overachiever, because that's one of my highest strengths, which can also be a weakness at the same time, because I have this internal fire. So, yesterday, for example, I thought to myself, I haven't worked on hair in 3 or 4 days. Let me start working on hair, because immediately I start to think that if I don't work on it, I'm going to fall behind it. So, these are things that I am as a C. Discipline is very, very easy for me, and I need to have a strategy. And if I don't finish the accomplishments of what I've set out for that day, I feel like I failed in that day. So that's for me. Yeah.
I love that. It's so cool, because basically what I'm representing right now here is what we do with our salon teams and our leadership teams. So Sean and I, every single week, we do our school directors calls, and we do things like this. So you could use tools. You could use my tools that I create. If you're part of our next mastermind, we'll have plenty of these tools available for you that you can use with your teams. And how cool is that? Every week our teams meet, and once a month we do to mastermind together. Right now, we're using the book Girl Wash Your Face. And that book is so good that we're only doing 1 chapter a month because there's so much information in it that we can go around and share. And it's really helped open up with people. There's been tears. There's been so much vulnerability, and it couldn't have come at a better time because it helps us to build the safety with one another, and it helps us to be vulnerable with each other, and we become more of a team, more of a family, to be able to lift each other up. And you know, the most important thing right now is to look for the one man down on your team and come to their rescue. And so the way we do that is by doing things like this, and we have our salon leaders' antennas are up because they're always thinking, who's down, who do we need to uplift, who do we need to reach out to this week, maybe FaceTime or a digital love note, whatever it is, to be able to reach out to our team. So these kind of tools are just kind of a way to be able to find that out with your team. Because again, 60 to 70% are disengaged, and we're only as great as, you know, our biggest weakness in our business. So it's your job to be able to figure that out on your team. And I think one of the biggest mistakes that I see when I coach salon owners is they're so busy in the business that they don't really see, they can't see what's happening. They can't see around them. Their blinders are on. They have too many blind spots, and it's important to be able to reveal and to find your blind spots. So do we have any questions or comments on the page here? And Diane, I love that you said so much authenticity here. Here's the deal. Authoritarian leadership is out. This is why people leave businesses, because there's too many authoritative leaders. How do you say that? There's not enough authentic and vulnerable leaders, you know, because think about it with you. What type of leader do you want to work with? When I was in dentistry, my last boss was my greatest boss because he was so authentic and so vulnerable, and it was so easy and so fun to work with him. It made it enjoyable to go into work and to be there every day. And I thought to myself, he led by such great example. I want to be that type of leader. And this is one of those ways to be able to do it. And so any other comments that we have or questions, Sean?
Yeah, I'd like to
Christine?
make a comment, because I think in this whole conversation, we're talking about, you know, the reset of the business. We had a couple of great resets, reinvest, reinvent. And I'm looking at it and thinking, as we're on this call, it's a great time to reset your values as a company, because I think, you know, that value, there's a great exercise. You can Google it and find it, a list of like 1,000 values, and just kind of go through it with your team. What's the top 10? Because I know I was on a call this morning with our owner, and he, you know, we talked about it. Safety has become a huge value now. You know, it's like your whole team is going to have to align behind like the safety and health of each other.
Yes.
You know, now in our industry, you know what I mean? So, you know, I think it's time to really look at your values. It's a great time to reset and kind of align behind who you are. And it's a great group exercise to do before you come back into the business, because I know that's number one for us. It's going to be safety. And that I don't even think was in our value. No, wasn't even on our top 10 value list, because we assumed we were safe before, you know? So I think this is great. I think this has been really good. Even for me, I'm sitting here jotting. I've got notes upon notes upon notes, because, like, you know, there's so much value in what we're saying here. But, you know, that's what I'm rethinking, reset our values. You know, there's a lot of great opportunities, a lot of gold here that you can really harvest into. And, you know, I forget where I read it just recently. It's like, keep digging through the clay, because the gold is in there. You know what I mean? So there's a lot of gold right here. So thanks, guys. This is great.
Yeah. Yeah, that's my challenge to you guys. So the assessment, have a couple people of your leaders do it on you, you know, assess yourself, have a couple leaders, and then also to figure out your rule of 5, right? And so the 21 habits to become a great leader, and just keep plugging away at these and figure out your rule of 5. So when we see you next week, we'll be able to share and see how you guys are doing, but we'll provide these on the Salon Owner Networking page for you guys as well too. So any questions in the chat that I missed, or comments at all, Sean, that you noticed on Facebook or Zoom?
Lori on Facebook. She said, yes, Rosemary, use it or lose it. So that's what we also talked about the importance of leading by example.
Yeah, there was, I think there was a great, I don't know if I'm on mute. There was a great lesson that John said when he was in Israel. And he noticed like all the leaders of the, of the army, they all had their name on the back of their, uniforms because they go first. You know what I mean? So I'd never heard that before. So, you've really got to lead by example. I always say, go from the front and you're also pushing at the back. But I thought that was a great analogy that they had their name on the back of their uniform. So their troops knew who was the leader and they were following that leader. So,
that's neat.
Be courageous. I think the line of courage here is where we've all got to kind of put our feet in the sand and be courageous and move forward and kind of borrow that from each other,
Yeah. And to answer your question, Diane, trust is the new currency. And how do you build trust? Through competence and through building your character. And like Christine said earlier, it doesn't happen overnight. It's just a little bit at a time. And that's why I gave you the assessment, because assessments are, I think, one of the greatest tools to help build your character, to constantly assess yourself and have your people assess you as well too. And that builds a lot of safety.
Yeah, and I think the fact, Tina, that you have shown such vulnerability, and I believe that we used to align vulnerability with a sign of weakness, when in all actuality, it's a sign of strength, and it is a sign of courage. And when our team can see that transparency of our vulnerability, it allows them to reveal their vulnerability. So,
absolutely. It changes lives. And I'm pretty sure that's why everybody got into this business, to change lives. I mean, hello, hairdressers are the greatest people in the world, the greatest. They are the most selfless and most incredible people that just love and value people.
I love that. Amazing,
Tina and Sean, with such value. I'm like Nuala, I've got my notebook.
I think that's it. Always continue to learn. Never stop learning. Never stop growing. Good.
Yeah. Thanks everyone for joining us. You guys are all amazing and sticking with us for the full hour. We like to start on time and end on time. So I know it's 101 right now, but thank you guys, and lean into the Salon Owner Networking page. We don't want to miss what you have. If you have comments, you have questions, you want to lean in at this time, I think we can build up some really incredible ideas of how we can reinvent our companies by doing it together.
Yeah. Yep.
Have a great week, everyone.
Yeah. Thank you guys.
Bye, guys.
Thank you for everything.
Bye.
Bye, you guys.